Well, hey, you guys, welcome to the Worship Leadership Show. It's been a while since I put out a video. My apologies. I really need a haircut. And there's probably some of you who really need haircuts. I needed a haircut before we started this whole isolation thing, and it's getting pretty shaggy. But we will soldier on. Today, I want to talk about production technology and just some principles for us as worship leaders. Often as worship leaders, we are in charge of the production technology of sound, light, video, what else is there? Streaming, if there's live streaming, we get put in charge of that. And I want to talk about some general principles to help you lead this component of your ministry. We are not going to get into specific pieces of equipment, because probably if I recommend some piece of equipment, by the time you finish watching this video, it'll already be obsolete. Things are moving very fast. So these are just some basic principles that will help you approach this area of worship ministry. And there's almost no ministry that happens in a church these days without some component of technology. So the first principle is this. Number one, you cannot know it all. Okay, there is so much to know. It is so complicated. You can't know it all as a worship leader, but the more you know, the better equipped you will be. Okay, so you will need people around you who are experts in using this technology to produce your services, your ministry events, and you are not going to be able to know it all. That's not your role. We're talking about you as a worship leader, not as the production manager or the technical director of the church. So you will need people around you who will be the experts. But the more that you do know, the more that you'll be able to make the right choices, the right calls, set the right priorities, and get the most out of the technology that you do have. So educate yourself on the systems. Try to find out how they work. Have your volunteers train you in how to do basic things on the soundboard, lighting board, video, etc. And when you come to be making decisions, if you're updating your tech systems or you're renovating the building and putting in a new sound system or something like that, the more you know, the better decisions you're going to be able to make. And you'll be able to know when someone's just trying to sell you something really expensive, or if it's something that you really need and that your church can use. That leads me to my next point. Principle number 2, get local, trustworthy help. Okay, there's a lot of gear that you can buy online from Sweetwater or on Amazon. You can buy this gear online, but I really recommend that you get someone local who can come to your church and look at your system, look at your room, and make recommendations, and that you can trust. Now, you might save a few bucks by buying things online, but here's something that you get with someone local. I was at a tech ministry conference a number of years ago, and a tech director from a huge church in, I think, the Chicago area, I forget where, was telling us this story that it was Easter weekend, and I can't remember what happened to their building, if it was struck by lightning or they had a fire or something like that. But their entire sound system was, like, half the equipment was damaged by the lightning strike or something like that. Like, the soundboard was fried. I know that was one of the issues. They had no soundboard, and a whole bunch of other equipment was inoperative. And this was Saturday night before Easter Sunday morning. They had like 5 services planned on Easter Sunday morning. So he called. He had the cell phone number of his local guy who had the AV supplier that they used. He called him up and said, look, we've just had this disaster. I need a soundboard and all sorts of new equipment for me to have Easter. So the guy said, okay, I'll meet you at the store in an hour. And they went in and they worked all night to reinstall equipment to replace all the stuff that had been damaged so that they could have Easter. I guarantee you, if you call Amazon on Saturday night before Easter, you are not going to be up and running by Easter Sunday morning. So I recommend that you get someone local, and also someone who could come to your building, look at it, help you out. I was doing some consulting with a church in Winnipeg. I used a local supplier, and as we bought a soundboard and some in-ear monitor systems, a whole bunch of equipment, subwoofers from him, and he ended up coming to the church a couple times and doing a few hours of free training for our volunteers. And man, you can't get that if you just buy stuff online. So I recommend finding someone local that you can trust to help you out. So the next principle I want to talk about is that your technical system, whatever it is, sound, lighting, whatever, is only going to be as good as the weakest link. Okay, so if you buy $50,000 speakers, but you have $40 microphones that the singers are singing into, that weakest link is what's going to determine the quality of the system. So when you're making purchasing decisions for your sound system or for your lighting or whatever, you need to look at what is the weakest link and shore up that weakest link before you blow the bundle on something that on, fantastic speakers, which are just going to make it blaringly obvious how terrible the microphones you have are. So look at the weakest link and shore that up. Sometimes the weakest link is people. If you have volunteers who don't know how to use the soundboard or don't have the skill to mix sound, then it doesn't matter what kind of sound system you put in front of them. It's not going to sound good because they don't know how to use the system that they have. So sometimes the best investment is in training the volunteers to get the most out of the system that you do have. So when you're designing that system or looking at how to make improvements, ask yourself, what's the weakest link, and focus your efforts, focus your dollars there. The next principle, it all works together. Okay, lighting, sound, video, they all interact together. So for instance, if you are hanging speakers for some new speakers that you get or a new sound system, you have to hang them in a place where they're not going to interfere with the lighting or with the throw from the projector. It all works together. And when you're designing a system and installing it, you can't design these systems separately. They all have to be designed so that they will work together. At the church where I'm at, Victory Church, we have a low ceiling. And so, man, it is a challenge to have a place where we can put the speakers and the projector and the lights in a way that are going to work well, and they aren't going to interfere with one another. So all these systems really do work together. Lighting is going to affect video. If the lighting is splashing onto the screen, it's going to wash out the screen. All these things work together. So think about the entire production technology system when you're making changes to it. Another principle, if you are designing a new system, is try to purchase what you're going to use every week and rent for special occasions. Okay, so purchase what you use for a regular Sunday, and then for those special services, Easter or Christmas or whatever they may be, that's when you rent. And then when you're renting, make sure you're looking months ahead of time and reserving your equipment, because guess what? Every church is going to want extra lights and extra headset microphones during Christmas and Easter. So make sure that you make those reservations early. That way, if your local trustworthy supplier, if they need to get extra gear in from head office or whatever, they've got time to do that. So make those reservations early. Okay, next, design your system for the people that you have and for the programs that you run. Okay, so what are your goals on a Sunday morning? Design a system for those production needs, and work with the skill level, the experience of the volunteers that you have. Don't design some professional grade system that requires professional full-time lighting techs, video techs, sound techs, etc. If all you have is one person and that's your whole tech ministry, and they run lights and they run sound and they're clicking the slides at the same time, you need a really simple system for that. Now, hopefully you can build that team so you can get more than one person doing it. but design your system so that it works for the people that you have. My final principle is there is no one size fits all solution. For everything depends on the particularities of your context, of your church, your programming, what the congregation needs, and also the particularities of your room. Your room is going to be unique, and so you're going to need to design your system for something that works in your room. There's no one size fits all. So get that trustworthy help to help you design your system, and you'll do well. All right. Thanks for watching this video. I got another one coming soon. We're going to talk about specific issues with lighting, I think is the next one. We'll talk lighting. We'll see you soon.